Well, we are going to begin this second hour with a Fox News alert. This is a good one for President Trump. It's our final call of the 2024 presidential race. President-elect Trump has officially flipped Arizona, adding that to his historic win.
That means Trump sweeping all 7 battleground states, lifting his total number of electoral college votes to 312, the most won by a Republican presidential candidate since 1988.
This comes as White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre revealed Trump and Biden will meet in the Oval Office on Wednesday. Meanwhile, demonstrations popping up in cities like New York and Seattle, protesting the election and fears over deportations and threats to reproductive rights.
Here we go.
So let's talk a little bit, you guys, about the Biden-Trump meeting on Wednesday. What do you think is going to happen there? Because there's been a lot of speculation. You remember Jill Biden actually wore a red suit to go vote, and everyone thought that was sort of like a signal that maybe she was voting for Trump. They're mad. So how do you think this meeting with Biden and Trump goes?
What?
Oh, I thought... well, Will was looking at Rachel, and I thought maybe he was disagreeing that Biden voted for Trump. I find it hard.
No, I don't know.
Who knows? But
no, I think... who knows? I mean, think of all the things that Biden said about Trump, what a threat he would be to the existence of our country, threat to democracy, all of those his people are all garbed. I think that'll all wither away ultimately, actually, and Biden will likely be gracious, Trump will be gracious. The reality is what it is. Trump's taken over.
do they normally meet this early?
Yeah, this is a pretty standard thing,
Okay.
really. I mean, because the incoming administration is transitioning into what roles they want for their top folks, and the coordination begins.
I also think that Donald Trump has shown a consistent characteristic of remembering disloyalty but forgetting a hard fight. What I mean by that is he understands that there is a game to be played and it will be a vicious game. But when he and Ron DeSantis are done fighting, he's done being mad at Ron DeSantis. It seems, by the way.
Yeah.
And you could kind of go down the list, right?
Yeah.
And if you even notice in the past month, he'd moderated or softened a bit in his rhetoric towards Joe Biden and started to feel bad for Joe Biden in some ways about what had been done to him by the Democratic Party. So this isn't the same Joe Biden that on a day-to-day basis screamed about democracy and stood in front of the red wedding banners and gave speeches about the end of America. It's a different Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And
Who's playing the game.
Who's playing the game. And I have a feeling that what I'm getting at is setting up this meeting won't be quite the anger fest you might expect from what the rhetoric during a campaign for presidency.
He told you as much when we had that interview with him, guys, at Bedminster. He said, you know, one of the things that surprised him so much the last time he won was he did think it was like the UFC fighters that, you know, they're really mad at each other, and then when the thing's over, it's over. And, you know, remember, he came out saying, you know, after he won, he said, she's no longer, what was his nickname for Hillary? Crooked Hillary.
Crooked Hillary, yep.
Then he said, no, she's beautiful Hillary. And then he said he was really shocked at the fact that the Democrats didn't let him win, you know, didn't let him, you know, do what he was supposed to do after, and that they kept trying to undermine him and using the deep state and the intel agencies to do that. He was shocked by that. But I think you're right. There's something, you know, as tough as he is, there's something very gracious about him. And I can imagine these two who are very generationally similar, I think are going to have a good meeting. And I think they both have the same beef with the establishment of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, and I also don't want to skip over that 312 number. We didn't know if we'd be calling the election by now. Instead, we're just calling the final state that adds to the final number of 312. And we made that historical allusion to 1988. You know, it wasn't that George H.W. Bush was an amazing candidate that everyone was so fired up about. It was that Ronald Reagan had inspired a nation and changed a map. And I think Donald Trump single-handedly did that himself as well. To fight back and get back to where he was, run the race again, considering what's been done against him, and then win 312 is a reflection of, it's a manifestation of a political movement that is here to stay, that's reoriented and changed the balance. So we're going to get to Nancy Pelosi and this whole working class party thing. Donald Trump really did change voting patterns for generations of Americans, which will help future Republicans as well.
It's not George W. Bush's party anymore. It's not George Herbert Walker's party anymore. The party is completely different. And this thing that Donald Trump did of winning, having so much go up against him, and then coming back from the ashes is really like an epic hero's journey. And I think all of us have been along for that ride. And it's been fascinating to watch.
The other thing I don't want to skip past is the last line in setting up our conversation for this hour, and that is that there have been some scattered protests across the country in places like New York or Seattle. I think one of the big takeaways that you hear from a lot of people is, but it's not like you thought it would have been. It's actually been much more muted, and we've had some discussions about why that might be. When you get blown out in a football game, you're more come over with depression than you are anger. If you lose in a tight game and there's a controversial call by the referee, you're angry. But if you get blown out 42-7, it's just really depression. But there is some scattered protests in New York or Seattle. And in my mind, that is motivated by an insanity fed by mainstream media about things like your reproductive rights are going to go away the day after. And you're seeing this insanity play out in a lot of places. Some women have shaved their head. And as we're going to get to in a moment, some suggesting you cut off relationships with others who might have voted for Donald Trump.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.